Hey now, I got a review for Red Bear, the new book that came out almost a month ago for Flames of War. This is a Russian book that includes the Russians and the Polish and the Romanians. I really like what Battlefront is doing with the books by making them hardcover, so you can just open them up and leave them out. And just if you want to put them on a table or something, and you won't lose your page. Nice glossy pages. You'll notice, for those of you that have the old books, a lot of the pictures and a lot of the diagrams are in the old ones, but I believe they have some new stuff. I don't have the old books for Eastern Front. I've not been a big fan of Eastern Front until now, so I thought they did a really good job. You start here with the Russian Tankovy. And the first thing that you'll notice is that they upped the price on you guys. I forget what the old prices were, but they were definitely more than what you see here. The reason being is that they have changed some of the rules because version 3 is coming out. Anybody that's into Flames of War, I'm sure you know that, but just in case, hate to break it to you, but the new version is coming out, so we have some really cool new rules coming out. And some of them are already in this book. Most of the Russian forces are either confident trained for the Red Army, fearless trained for the Guards, but there are other forces. For instance, if you have some of the scouts, right here, Strekovy Scout Platoon or fearless vet, but very rarely do you have a veteran force in the Russians. Usually very specialized troops. And there's a lot of fortifications in here that we didn't have before in previous. So you have the same warriors. I'm sure you'll be able to recognize. Everything is really nicely done. Excuse me. And they have all the lists from the 4 Eastern Front plus some of the PDFs in here. I think everything was just done beautifully. They have some nice diagrams here of tactics. Again, if you have the old books, some of this may look very familiar, but the main difference is the points. Here is a partisan company, and you've got confident conscript. So that'll be fun. Get a lot of guys, just a huge Russian horde. Not to bring up another game, but you'll be orcs and gobbling people to death. Not too much core support for the Russians because a lot of their diagrams are within the units in the previous pages. Just a lot of artillery back here, and of course your unbelievably good aircraft. And then here are the new rules. Everything looks the same. You've got Commissar, quality of quantity, centralized control, decoy, infiltration, which are just basically streamlined, if I understand it correctly, from the old rules. But here, and here's some of the old rules again. Volley fire, breakthrough gun. Now switched it up a little bit on some of the weapons that can and cannot use it. Basically turretless tank teams such as the SU-76, SU-122, and ISU series may have the volley fire. So some tanks, I believe, start losing it. So they've streamlined a lot of these rules. They've got the sapper body armor, so you don't have to look for it in the army list. It's back here in the special rules. The big change: hen and chicks. No longer, if you move 6 inches, you can't shoot. Now it's just if any of them move within that company, you get a +1 modifier to your shot, which makes it harder for you to hit. So if you're shooting at a vet, at close range is now a 5 instead of a 4. Some of the points went down for the rate of fire 1s, because if you have this and you have rate of fire 1, then you get a +2 to your shot, so you're in real trouble if you're moving and shooting with a rate of fire of 1. So they went down in price, whereas everybody else went up in price because now you can be much more mobile. I'm not convinced that that's going to be a a better rule for the Soviets. But overall, I think the lists are better, or at least balance out from before. So you may be paying more for the tanks now, but everything else looks a lot better. You got a lot more decoys, I believe, specialized troops. You've got some monstrous Katyushas now that just absolutely tear everything apart, and I'll show that to you in a minute. And a great part of this section that are going to be part of the new rules are the tank escorts. Soviets seem to dominate in this area. Later I'll show you the German book, but the Soviets, just any medium tank, I believe, has tank escorts, whereas the Germans just have it on their half-tracks and Stugs. I'm not sure if they have it on anything else, but I've noticed T-34s have these guys in spades. Really, really good rules. Basically, you don't have infantry on the team. If you have a tank, here, let me grab a tank. Alright, so let's say this is a Russian tank. You've got a Russian captured, let's just pretend it's a T-34. You would probably model it, I would probably model it with, and we're going to put Americans on them, just to make it even more weird. On the back of a tank, some people make smaller things. It doesn't really matter, because these guys do not come off your tank. They're not an individual unit for tank escorts. They're basically an add-on. If you're familiar with like 40K or fantasy or something, you know, you can't pass around a sword or a sword go off on itself. This is like an extra sword on your unit, an extra weapon that you place. It's an option. And what these guys can do is, if anybody comes near your tanks, they can shoot. Let's see, they have a rate of fire of 1. They get no penalty, and as long as you didn't move more than 6 inches here. There, let me just read the rule. A tank team with tank escorts can shoot with its tank escorts if it did not move more than 6 inches in the movement step. Tank escorts shoot as if they are separate teams from their tank teams and may shoot a different platoon from that which their tank is engaged. So your tank can shoot at one platoon, and your tank escorts can shoot another, just like if they were another platoon. They shoot as the appropriate type of infantry team. No Soviet tank with the Setniki SMG. Tank escorts shoot as an SMG team, but always have a rate of fire of 1 with no penalty for the tank's movement. If assaulting infantry teams sneak up on a tank team that has tank escorts, the tank escorts can defensive fire. So if you have infantry hiding, didn't move, didn't shoot, and they're within 4 inches, and they're normally the tank still will not get defensive fire, but these guys will. They'll be able to shoot at them, maybe even drive them back, so they're a nice little protection. But the nicest thing I like about them is, let's say you're going into a forest, and you've got some guys in there, and you want to assault them. Well, you can stop your tank, and normally you'd have to take a bog check and assault them. Well, with the tank escorts, you can just declare that your tank escorts are assaulting and your tank is staying outside the forest, which means that you can't swing with the tank. You can swing with these guys. And when they swing back, they have to go against the tank, because these are not an individual team. They're part of the tank. And this is how I understand the rules. So when they swing, they've got to hit the tank and destroy the tank. Now, if they destroy the tank, then these guys go with it, because they're basically one unit. But the special capabilities now is that you can not risk being bogged down and keep assaulting with these guys into the forest, which is a huge advantage now. I mean, it was a big deal trying to get into the forest, into very difficult terrain, and trying to assault and break through with your tanks. Not so now. If you've got these tank escorts, I think that you're going to do very well. Now, if you're assaulting, here's one downfall. You're assaulting and they get defensive fire and they hit you 5 times. These guys technically fall back, so only the tanks can go in and swing until you counterattack. And when you counterattack, then these guys can start swinging. So a really good option. I can't see at any point why I wouldn't take the tank escorts on every single tank that I could. They're a really, really good rule. So then they have the Soviet list, and you can see the Soviets get a good amount of stuff. And I'll show you the big Katyushas. Where are the big Katyushas? Big Katyushas. Oh, they're in the rocket. Rocket launchers. All right. Here are the big Katyushas. I know it's 48-inch range, 3 anti-tank, 1-up firepower. So anybody dug in within the range of those big Katyushas, say goodnight, because they're toast. They're dug in means nothing. They did a really good job on making pictures for fortifications, showing you what you can and cannot do, showing you how to deploy everything properly so that you obey the rules. Because some of the rules in the older rule booklets, and I think they understand this, that most of us players, we're visually oriented. That's why we like playing with toys. We don't like reading books necessarily. So they've had the text in here, but now they've got some really nice pictures to help us out. The ones that are visual learners, they did a much better job, I think. And then you've got the field fortifications. This seems to be universal now. They are going to put these in all the books. They want people to have at least the option to put in fortifications and know which companies are fortification companies. Mostly just infantry divisions, companies. I know the Germans have 2 that can do it. I'm not sure how many Russians. I believe they also have 2 that can use the fortifications.